you know, oh, you know Vue.js. Okay, so you're probably familiar with sort of the, uh, at least the basic concepts of front end and back end and stuff like that. But I'll just go over it again for anyone who might not know. So essentially, when you're working with on the web, you have three different sections that you have to concern yourself with. Okay, this just does not work. Okay, you have the front end, you have the back end, and then you have the middleware, where the front end is obviously the thing that is showable to the user will see directly. In the case of a website, that's going to be when the user types a URL or clicks a URL, is what they just see on the screen. You have the backend, which is also pretty obviously the database and whatever's stored. Um, and then finally, you have the middleware, and the middleware does all the processing. And that's where your framework lies, essentially. It allows you to do the processing for stuff like taking the inputs from the user, essentially stuff like form responses. If you're working with sockets, messages that have been sent along the socket, stuff like that. It processes them and then sends it to your backend. See like whatever data storage you use, whether that be file storage or tables and stuff like that. And so Django, as a framework that I'll be covering today, is a Python-based web framework that is strictly that is a backend framework that manages backend and middleware. And it comes with its own templating syntax for the front end, which makes it quite useful for building dynamic web applications. It makes it a lot easier than, I guess my only reference point is PHP. But yes, it makes it a lot more easy than PHP. Oh, hello. I'll just I think the sound out of my computer is a bit bugged, so if you can type in chat, if you could just try, that would be great. Can you hear me, by the way? Uh, okay. I'm just going to assume it works for both of you, and then we move on. Yeah. I can't hear you. The sound on my computer is a bit bugged, so ideally on the chat. Okay, cool. Great. Excellent. Okay. Essentially, I just went over the differentiating front end, back end, and middleware. Front end being what the user sees, back end being like stuff like tables, file storage, and stuff like that, and middleware being the processing layer that takes a user input from the front end and process it in order to send to the back end again, right? And Django, as a web framework that I'll be covering today, is based on Python and manages backend and middleware primarily, but also comes with its own templating syntax for the front end, which can be quite useful for building web applications. And in our case, it will be quite useful for building base mini apps. But we'll focus on building the web application because it translates directly into the mini app. And you'll see how that works by going through the base quick start and stuff like that. Yes, so I guess I'll just start by showing you some code. I'll show you a quick starter project. And then we'll go from there and we'll try and develop it further. So if I open VS Code, oh, I'm gonna have to share this with data. Let me just open a new VS Code session. I not see the top of this? Okay, let me just file, open folder. Give me a second. I'm just creating a new folder for this. Workshop group. And let's just save that folder. Workshop group. Let me select that folder. I'm just going to open it in this window. If it loads. Yes, excellent. Very cool. Then the there's the all right. Sorry, just give me a minute while I fix this. Okay, share. Builder. Okay, that should be being shared now. Do you all see the VS Code window that I have open? Yeah? Okay, very cool. Okay, so the first step that we're going to be doing, because it's a Python environment that we're going to build, is to create a virtual environment. And if you're following along, by the way, just open VS Code and open it to a new folder, and make sure you have Python installed and on your path. I'm assuming most people have Python. I'm assuming pretty much everyone has Python. So I'm just going to skip ahead, but let me know if you need a little bit of time to get that working. Okay, let me. So the thing that you can do here in VS Code, which is quite nice, you can click the top toolbar thing, and if you go to show and run commands, you can. Well, normally you have to search create environment, but because I've used it often, create environment. And in general, you'll be using a venv, which will be controlled by the pip package manager. Not too important in this case, but can be important for some specific apps if you're working with specific packages. And here you'll select your interpreter. This is why it's important that your Python version is on the actual path of the system, otherwise it won't be detected. It will just make it slightly more complicated if it's not linked to path. And then we give it like half a minute to load up the environment. Yeah, you can already see that it's created the folder, it's just creating the files inside. If you wanted, we can take a look at what's inside the virtual environment folder. So in this case, that's going to be the scripts. That's going to be the scripts being, for example, the activate script, and the activate script instantiates a version of the virtual environment so that you can install packages local to this project rather than on your system, which is nice for if you have multiple projects running at the same time. Okay, so now that's done, you can see the bottom right-hand corner, the command finished. We can run .then /scripts /active. What this does essentially is you can see that you have the .venv on the in green next to the actual command line terminal. All that means is now we're working within that virtual environment and we're not working on the whole system. So we can install packages and it won't impact the packages installed for other projects in the same computer, which is nice. And yes, the first thing we'll do is install Django. So do pip install Django. And this is how you install packages, by the way. It's pip install plus, and then afterwards is the package name. Because we're building a Django web application, we're installing Django. And now we'll just take a minute. How's it going? Is that it? Oh, wait, you're running on the back. Yes. Oh, you don't have it then installed locally. Okay. It should still work the same way, but let me know if there's any problem. All right. Yeah, you can see that Django's installed. And now the next command to run is Django admin. Django dash admin. I'm not sure if that's showing on the screenshot. Django dash admin. Start project. And then whatever you want to call your project. In this case, I'm going to call it workshop 3. And this will just create the initial file structure for the actual Django web application. You can see we've created a new folder, workshop 3, which has this folder inside called workshop 3 and then a manage.py. And for the rest of this, we will be working within that initial workshop 3 directory. If you don't know how to do this, I'm assuming most people should know how to do this, but use cd workshop 3. Oh, by the way, all my instructions are for Windows. It's different commands for Bash. If you're working on Linux or Mac. It shouldn't be a big problem regardless. But yes, now essentially we're working within workshop 3. So the next thing to do is, first let's discuss what this is. This initial folder here that I've highlighted, that's called workshop 3 within workshop 3, the outer folder, is what's referred to in Django as an app. And in this case, workshop 3 is a special type of app. It must have the same name as the overall project. And then it's essentially controlling all the other apps that we're going to create. So you wouldn't normally keep extra functionality in this because it would get quite bloated. In this case, what I'll do is create another app called, I'll just call it main, because it will hold all the main functionality for this project that I'm making. So the way to do that, you're not using Django admin anymore, you're using manage.py. So Python manage.py start app main. All right, yeah, and we can see this app I'm creating, this main app here. I'm going to control minus, so yeah, you can see better. But you have this, you have a few files that have been created. The main ones that are relevant to us are, oh, somebody think that. Did anything change in the chat? I don't think so. I don't think that's even. Let me see. Is there anything going on? No. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's get back to it. So essentially, yes, we have created this app called main, which has all of these extra files. The important one here is views.py. And views.py will be essentially holding all of our routing. And routing is when you have a URL, maybe I should. Okay. When you have a URL, let me know if you can see this, by the way, this text. If you have a URL like HTTPS with a domain slash whatever, right? That bit is essentially what we control. The slash whatever is what you use the routing in order to control. And we'll start with this basic example. And we'll start off actually by creating urls.py file as well. You need a urls.py file in order to interact properly between main and then your workshop 3. So let's just do that. So create a new file inside main called urls.py. And look, for now, let's go. Yeah, okay, that's actually quite nice. And we'll just say this is home.html rather than main/home.html. Okay, now we have that in our views.py. This is essentially render as a function that takes in 2 arguments in general. Can be 3 arguments if you're passing a lot of data if you're passing data from the backend to the front end. And you pass the request, the original like HTTP request essentially that gets passed into the function. And then you pass the name of the file, HTML file. Yes, okay, so what render does is it's sending output, it's selecting which output to send back to the user. So you take, in this case, you can ignore the request parameter for now. The second parameter, home.html, means that it will search for a file called home.html in the templates and deploy it and like send that actual raw HTML to the front end in order for people to view. And I'll show you the actual example in a little bit. So what we're going to do is urls.py. Okay, there we go. Also, complete is very convenient, by the way. But yes, this is the standard form for urls.py. You have to import the django.urls package. And you can do it a bit simply. You can go from django.urls import path, and then just use it like that. It's more convenient. What the path function does now is essentially, remember how we had this domain with https whatever domain.com/whatever. That path controls which function in Python ties to which actual domain extension, right? So we have, so if we wanted this to be /index, we would do something like /index, right? Like that. Okay, are we going to use Django for frontend and backend? Django is a web framework for backend and middleware control. In the frontend, when I'm going over it, I'll be using just standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the front end, which is very basic. Honestly, pretty easy to pick up. I'm not using any frameworks for the front end. I will be using the templating syntax that comes bundled with Django, which is called Ginger2. But you don't need to worry about that name. You can just treat it like a thing you can plug variables in. All right. So we have this urls.py file now. I'm going to change that back to the empty path, and you'll see why in a second. And then the next thing to do is to link this main app to our actual Workshop 3 app, because our Workshop 3 app is what actually controls the whole application. If you don't link it, then you're not going to be able to see anything from main. So what we're going to do is go to settings.py. And then to installed apps, which is going to add it somewhere here, You're going to add main. Cool. And also crucially, this urls.py, we need to also add it to we need to add all the paths from urls.py into the urls.py in the actual full control. So you can do from import include. Include is a function that is a Django function that simply, let me just scroll to the bottom of this. Just see if there's a, okay, cool. Yes, so include is a function, and what it does is it takes in multiple parameters, and the idea is use it to link the urls.py of your other apps to the main controller app. So in this case, what we're going to do here is include the main.urls. And this empty string in the beginning would be the prefix that you would put before putting the strings in main.urls. This can be useful. Let's say you had an API, right? And so you made an app called API in order to hold all the API routes. In your URL patterns, you don't necessarily want to write /API/ a bunch of times. Instead, what you're going to want to do is say, when you're including in here, give me path API/, so that API/ must be appended to all of the URLs from API.urls. Okay, by the way, feel free to message at any point you have doubts. This is recorded. I made sure it's recording this time. Excellent. Okay, so we've included these main URLs, and the last thing to do is essentially, because in this views.py we've created this file called home.html. This doesn't exist yet, so we need to make it exist, right? And the way we're going to do that is new folder. We're going to create a new folder in main, and it's going to be called templates. And in templates, we're going to create a new file called home.html. Let me see if I can generate some code. Yeah, that's nice. Head. Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, this is going to be a sample page for now, and we'll make it more complex as time goes on. But for now, it's just going to be a HTML page with the title of homepage, and title is given by the title tag. And in the body, there's going to be a header one being the largest header, saying welcome to the homepage. So yes, and then I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. So okay, so now we've created all the files that we need. We've created this main app. We've linked it to our actual workshop free app, which controls the main app. And in our main app, we have created the route that links the home.html file, and you can now request it via routes to the front end. So in order to run the server, which you need to do in order to see this website running, so you do python manage.py run server. There are additional commands that you can do to run it on specific ports, but in general, run on the port 8000. So try and make sure you don't have, but do make sure you're not running processes on the port 8000, because otherwise you might have unexpected behavior when you go to that URL. So you can see it's running at 127.0.0.1. That is just the IP address of localhost. And now I'm just going to change the screen show really so that you can see this. Okay, let me stop sharing for a little bit. Okay, now let me share what that looks like. Share content. Windows. Okay, so you get that should be okay. So you guys see this page, right? let me just drag this down. Actually, I'm going to close a bunch of those tabs. Okay, so now you can see this what we've done with this homepage, right? The title homepage here, and then you have welcome to the homepage in a large header. And now it's time to stop sharing that and go back to the code. So yes, we're going to stop sharing that, and let me share the code again. Are you all good so far? Yes. How far have you got?
Took some notes.
Oh, you took some notes? Oh, you're taking. Try and follow along if you can, but you might be a maybe a step behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have this HTML page that we can push out and we can keep whatever content we like. And now the important thing is, right? Yeah, sure, you can use this and you can create more routes. Like, for example, let me just create one quickly. We go back to views.py and we said def home2, which rendered another HTML file, right? And then we just stop the web server now. And we go to the urls.py main and we create a new path. And then we create a new HTML file. And what we're going to do is just have the same thing as here, but by the way, it really is very quick once you get the initial file set up to create another static page, which I quite like as a feature of Django in general. But yes, let's run the server again. And let me do the whole sharing thing again. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share. Yes, so templates store all the HTML files. Like the HTML files being what's sent out to the front end. It's bundled with stuff like static files and stuff like that as well. But you don't actually need to know that in order to build a web application for this hackathon, really. Because you can just do everything inline and it's a bit easy to do it like that than to handle static files, which requires stuff like white noise. So don't worry about it. Essentially, yes, templates contain the stuff that gets sent to the front end directly. So if we run this, so if we refresh this, you're going to see it's still the same page, right? But if you go to home2, look, yeah, you can see this is now a different page that renders the text. Welcome to the homepage 2, right? And that's pretty simple. But this is only useful as far as creating static sites is useful. Like for portfolio page or something, this would be great because you're not really wanting the content to change based on user info or whatever, right? However, where you might want that to sort of functionality exist, we're going to have to get a bit more complicated. So we're going to start with, let me just share the code window again. Can I share the screen? I can just share the screen, like, yeah. Yeah, I'll just share the screen. Okay. So back to this code window. Right. And what we want to do now, for instance, is send a value from the backend into the front end. And we'll do this quite simply. So let's go to homepage 2 again. Let's say you wanted to send a name, and for now, let's make the name just a hard-coded variable. But later, we'll introduce the database, and we'll use for the database. By the way, we'll be using SQLite 3, which is the standard database included with Django. So there's tools already for interacting with the interface. So then the name equals to Alice, sure. And you can see now they're adding this additional parameter to the render function. So we're not only sending the HTML file anymore, we're sending this HTML file plus this dictionary. This dictionary mapping the keyword, the key name to the name variable. So the thing that will get sent here is name corresponding to the value of Alice, right? So if you go back to home 2, let's say now you just want to, now we have this variable, how do we use it? Because we pass this object with name corresponding to Alice, how do we put Alice into this page? And the solution is to use the Django template using and this is going to autofill it for me. But if you're passing a static variable, you're going to be using these double curly braces surrounding. And whatever's inside this double curly braces is going to be able to use basic logic like if statements and stuff like that, and loops as well. And it's going to be able to use parameters taken directly from the keys of that object we passed through the user. Yes, none of this stuff is dependent on previous workshops. This is just web development from scratch. Rest assured. This is more of a prerequisite to linking to base in a way, but honestly, it's not. You don't need to know one to know the other. So that's what we do. Yes. So you can see that we have this new template syntax. We surrounded double curly braces. So if we save this file and then rerun the server again, you can see the server is now running. And then we go back to this homepage. If you refresh the homepage 2, you can see that it now says Alice, right? It now says hello, welcome to the homepage 2 Alice, because we passed that parameter from the backend into the front end. Okay, the next thing that we're going to be doing is database, because what's a program without a database, right? You can't store any information. So the main way you're meant to interact with databases in Django with good practice is by using what are known as models, right? And these models live in this file. And now we're just going to create a very basic model representing a person. So we do class person, which extends model for model. Yeah, autocomplete is really good now. But okay, so we have class person extending models not model, and you can see it's given us these two parameters, name and age, and it's given us this def on double underscore string, which is a function. And the double underscore string function is if you were to print out a person to like a command line or to the front end, how would you represent that person? And in this case, they've chosen to represent it using self.name. We can do better. We could just say something like that. And yeah, we should probably convert it to string. That's probably great. Good idea. But essentially, yes, it's returning a string that would be printed out to the console or be printed out to the front end if you were to print out this person object. Right? And so the thing we're going to do now, let's go back to sort of input output from the front end to back end. And now let's work on inputting from. No, wait, do we do that first? We do not do that first, sorry. First, we have to. So we made these changes in models.py. That's not going to change our database yet. Oh, are you guys in a team? Is this why this conversation is happening? For sure. Anyway, okay, yeah, cool. Anyway, you have so you have this models.py, and you've edited that models.py. The database actually is a file. It uses something called SQLite 3, and it lives in this file that's outside of the main apps, but it just exists upon server run. Changing this file to include this class doesn't automatically change that database to have that table called person. So what you're going to want to do is run a command called python manage.py make migrations. I'm assuming you kind of get what it's trying to do here. Making the migrations is like it's creating a file that represents all the changes you're going to have to make to the actual database, the SQLite 3 database. So if you run that, you can see it says migrations for main, create model person. Okay? Which kind of works. Now what we're going to do, that we've created that migration, we haven't actually run the migration yet. The way to run a migration, and therefore the way to change the database structure, is to go python manage.py migrate. And you're going to see, because it's the first time we're migrating, it's also going to create a bunch of authentication tables for users, and then in particular, one user to be super that is useful for us is the super user. And I'll show you what that is now. So do python manage.py create super user. And for the case of debugging, but probably not in your actual apps, yes, the database is created. The actual database already exists when you create the Django app. It's this file called db.sqlite3 that's right here. That's the actual database. And then by creating our migrations and then migrating, what we've done is create all the required tables on them in order for it to actually function as a database that we can use. Okay, and the super user that we're creating will allow us to view. I do not have to manually create the SQLite 3. It exists when I run the server for the first time. I don't need to actually run, like the first time I ran that server without any backend functionality, it got created. So we have this username blank to leave user. I'm going to make this really insecure. I'm going to set both my username and password to root, which is fine in case of like debugging, or in this case, a hackathon project. In a real world project, do not do this. Use a secure username and password for obvious reasons, because whoever has this account can access your database. You can ignore the email address. And when you're typing the password, thing to know, it does not show the characters you typed. This is a security thing, but yeah, sometimes people don't realize and then end up trying to keyboard match through the password fields and get very confused. It's not going to show what characters you typed. It's going to give me a warning because obviously the password is too similar to the username. It's the same as the username, and it's not very secure because it's only 4 characters long. I am, however, going to just completely ignore the warnings and continue to quit the user anyway, because this is just a dummy account, really, right? Now, what we're going to look at is how you view this database in the front end, which is really one of my favorite bits about Django, is that you can view, like, automatically bundle with this interface that you can look at all the tables in your database on the front end. There might be a couple, you just need to do a couple of things. The first thing you need to do is register the you need to register the actual model. So you need to import the models first. And then what you need to do, you can see the code completion will be saying it. You need to register the actual model into the admin view. And what that does is it allows you in the admin section of your website to view the person table and all of its rows, right? So you're going to save that, and that's all fine. And then what we're going to do is run the server again, right? Okay, and now when we run the server, instead of going to home or home to, we're going to go to a route that Django automatically creates for us when we do our first migration. And that route is the /admin route. You can see it takes us to this Django administration page. I coded none of this. This comes bundled with Django, just for reference. So the username is root, and in this case, the password is also root, because that's what I set it when I created the super user. I can log in, and you can see, yeah, of course, it's been covered. Data breach. So yeah, let's just save it. Okay, we have this site administration hub. This authentication and authorization tab, you will very rarely even touch this tab. For the case of this hackathon, I don't think you have to worry about it at all. So just completely ignore it. What you really want in this case is the persons thing. And when you click on it, you can see we currently have 0 people stored. We have 0 person objects, right? And we can add a person. And because the fields that we gave the person the name and age, we can now fill in the name and age. And in fact, it will check for us and automatically go, oh, name has to be a string, age has to be a number, right? So if we were to say, okay, name is test, we'll say the name is Alice, and then we'll say the age is 24, right? Okay. Give me a second. Yes, it is. Yeah. Just go free, sit down. Second person there. Well, apart from all the people live. And then, other interest. What's your background in web development? Do you have experience? Fair enough. I'll catch you up to speed in a bit, or he can help you. Well, for now, right? Okay. Essentially, when we're creating this person model, yeah, we can supply the name and the age. And in this case, if I try and change the age to an integer, to a decimal, it will allow. But if I try to change it to a string, you can see that I am actually typing characters right now. It's not going to allow me to type these characters because that's not a valid number. So it has automatic input validation on this side, which is also a really nice feature. So let's say Alice is 24. And we're going to save this person, right? And you can see, because we've said our string function for the person is the name plus who is plus string of the age plus the years old text. You can see this person is Alice, who is 24 years old. Right? That makes sense. And then let's go back to our code. Because, yeah, you get the idea? I'm going to zoom this. Yes. So now we've now registered the person into the admin view. We can now add a person. Now the thing that we want to do is be able to interact with people, right? We want to interact with people that we've stored. And the way we're going to do that is in this route here. And we're just going to use the home to route because we already have some of the logic for passing the name to the front end and stuff like that, which is nice. And now what we can do is if we import all of the person models, so from dot models, import person. Okay, and what we're going to try and do here is filter the number of people who have the name Alice, and just take the first one. So we get the first user whose name is Alice. We're going to just assume that's just our Alice. That's fully correct. So we're going to do filter. Oh, okay. So it's given us a more complex filter, and I'm going to ignore that for now because it's more complicated. So you're going to go name equals name, right? And then we're going to go if people does exist, right? And again, this is Python code. It's very readable. So we've said okay. So people itself, we've taken all the objects of type person, and we filtered them by people who have the same name as Alice here. And then we're checking if there are actually people with the same name as Alice. If there are, we're just going to take the first person out of that, and we're going to take their name, right? But it's okay. Instead of taking the name, let's just go. Let's just say person equals to people dot first dot string. Like we're just going to take the string of that, right? And you remember what the string function was before? It was Alice, who is 24 years old, or whatever, right? And we're going to pass the name as the person itself. You're going to see what that does in a little bit, but let's also keep logic for when people doesn't exist. Let's say there's no people whose name is Alice. So we're going to have the else condition. And you still have no such person found. We're going to do unidentified person. Yeah. Okay, so now we have this logic here, and you can kind of see how this works, right? Again, Python very readable, very easy to understand. So now if we run this server again, I'm just gonna okay, let's make it a little bit interactive. What do you guys think will happen when I go to the home2 route? Knowing that we have this Alice person stored in our database who's 24 years old, what do you think the text will be when we go onto that page? You just type it in chat or you're on the committee. I expect you to answer that, man. Anyway. Oh, okay. Let me just check. I don't have to chat with them. Let me check the chat. Okay, yeah. It's like, yeah. You forgot the rest of the text, but you get the idea. It's going to say, hello, Alice, whatever, who is 24 years old, I believe is the text. But yes, you're correct. And in fact, you can verify this by going back onto the page. Going to load? Yes, it's going to load again. So if you go back to home2, welcome to the homepage to Alice, who is 24 years old. Let's make a quick change. Let's suppose that instead of Alice, we were trying to find a person called Bob. Now, Bob does not exist. So what do you think the text will be? Yeah, I mean, you guys can please answer as well. Oh, yeah, you just gave. I'll help you in a bit. Once we got this initial bit sorted out, right? Okay, now I'm going to change this to Bob, right? What will home2 say now? If I go into the home2 route, what text will I see? For real. It will not change to hello Bob. You have fallen for the blunder. Drew, I expected better from you, I can't lie. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, the important thing is, look at the logic that we're running. We're trying to filter for people with the same name as whatever name there is. You're doing this. No, you got it wrong on purpose, man. Not on the purpose. You got it wrong by accident. Just admit it. Just admit it. Okay, so we have the name as Bob. And now we're going to be filtering for people if Bob exists, right? And Bob does not exist. So the list of objects also does not exist, right? There are no people whose name is Bob. So it's going to go to else, and the person is going to be unidentified person. And so the page will say, welcome to Hello World 2, unidentified person. So, and yes, you can verify this again by going back to our app and refreshing. Right, and you can see here is going to be welcome to hello page 2, unidentified person. And that's all cool. Now, this is still not very useful, right? Because if you're a user, you're not going to be changing the backend code in order to get different responses in the front end, right? Instead, what you might want to do is have your route, in your actual route, have /home to /Alice, and then it will check for Alice, or /hello to /Bob, and then it will check for Bob. And the way to do that is to go back to our urls.py. And use that. So using angle brackets, and that is a parameter inside the route itself, right? And that's a parameter. That parameter, the string, the type of the parameter is string. The name, which is the string, gets passed over to this function. We just have to edit this function now to accept it. So we take request and then we take name, right? And now we don't need this name. It is as easy as that. So now, if you go back to home 2, if you refresh, I believe, yes, it's going to get confused. Because if you look at the current paths, we have home 2 /, but home 2 / doesn't match the home 2 / plus a string. It only matches home 2. So if you added a string here, no. If we add the string Alice, it's going to check for Alice existing, right? And if we change this to Bob, it's going to say it's an unidentified person. Same functionality as before, but now we're able to actually pass stuff from the front end to change what the backend sends us back. Which is really a cornerstone of the modern web application, really, right? That's what's key. So everyone gets what's going on, right? Just speak now or hold your peace, I guess. Yeah? Cool. Okay. Okay, can I show the URLs of PyFile again really quickly? Sure, will do. So you can see we have this default path of user.home. That doesn't have any parameters in there, in the URL. And then we have this new path, which has the string name as part of the actual URL path. And then that gets sent over to the backend. It gets sent over to our, well, I call it backend, it's more middleware, but it gets sent over to our Django function as name, as a parameter called name. So that's quite neat. That's quite cool. Yeah, any questions? Okay. All right. Yeah, we're all good. Cool. Okay. Now, again, we've done a bit better this time. Now we can pass it in the URL. Obviously, this is still not great. This is still not perfect. Because what user goes to the URL and changes it whenever they want to get a specific page on the website? They want to click a button, maybe, which is a bit easier. Or they want to more, probably in a better sense, what they want to do is to type into a text box on a different page and get redirected to this page. And they type in the name. So what we're going to do now is change our initial homepage in order to allow us to do that. I'm going to assume you guys aren't super familiar with HTML. I'm going to assume that's a fair assumption. But first, let's make the route on the back end. Right here, we're going to create a different type of route. This route won't accept a... no, it's fine. We'll keep the route simple. So what we're going to do is create a input here. So we're going to create a form. By the way, a form in HTML is nice switch, of course. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's easy. So it's going to create a form in this case, which has the text, enter your name. It has the input for the name itself, and this is a text type input. And then you're just going to have a submit button, which will submit the form. Now, currently, when the form says that it's submitted, it doesn't do anything. So instead, we have to we specify what it does by form action equals to. What does it do? URL. Okay, wait. I'm going to check if this is correct. I'm going to check the syntax. URL. What is the view? What is the actual URL for it? Home2. Oh yeah. Yes. Okay, so yes, that is the code. That is the correct thing. Can you guess what action does from this code? I was going to take your best guess and say you as well, and you. What's your best? What is your best guess? What an action does here for the form?
It adds the string to the end of the URL.
Yes. What is the home? What do you think the home2 does then? What do you think it's referencing?
The HTML file. Oh,
No,
not exactly that.
It's not referencing the HTML file. That is a trap. I made all the file names very similar. So it's an unintentional trap. I said. Essentially, you are correct. Home2 is the home2 function in the views.py. Actually, you're very close, but it's effectively the same thing in most cases. And you are also correct. Action controls where the form sends the data when you click submit, and action controls what the URL gets sent to. Right. So if you go back to the URLs.py, home2 isn't actually referring to this home2 function. It's referring to this name home2. Now the reason it does that is, let's say we wanted to change the functions in views.py, right? We might change this to a better name like check if person exists. That would be a better name for that function than home2 at this point. But we don't necessarily want to have to change all our front end for it and all our like this routing page. So instead, we can just refer to this name in the front end and here. And that's the link between there. And we don't have to worry about what the actual function is called, because that match is done in this file specifically. Yeah, that's essentially it. And yeah, what we're going to do now is just show this working. So let's rerun the server. And we go back to home, the actual home. So back to our initial page. What is this? Oh, what's going on? Have I messed up? I might have messed up. Wait. Yep. No keyword logins. I have messed up. That is interesting stuff. I've been lost to it. Maybe because we need to prep, but okay. Oh. Okay, I'm going to check the documentation. I have actually forgotten this, but that is why the Django documentation exists. Django documentation lives here in you just search it up, it is very comprehensive. And in this case, we're going to search form action. Working with forms, right? HTML forms. No, it's not possible. That might be why it's trying to do something that's not. Sorry, I've made it annoying. We're gonna have to use JavaScript for this. So yes, instead of using form action, we're gonna have to get rid of that entirely. And we're gonna remove the actual form because we don't actually want it to refresh the page on completion anymore. We're just gonna want these labels to exist. And now what we're gonna do is create a script tag. And the script tag will allow us to run JavaScript on this page. The script goes here after all the body items, essentially, before the end of body. Right, and then what we're going to do is we also don't want this to be hard-coded, right? We don't want this home to be hard-coded. But the curly braces have special meanings in JavaScript, so we can't just use the curly braces here. So what we're actually going to do is create a hidden element. And we're going to call this, we're just going to create a span. Span style equals to display hidden, display none. And what it's just going to contain is the actual route. URL home to. And then instead of this, what we're going to do is, should I do that? You know what? Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just allow URL hard coding. We're going to allow URL hard coding. We're just going to go to the slash home to slash name route, which is a lot simpler to understand. And we're just going to pass that name inside there, right? So now, if we go back to our web page, you can see we have this enter your name plus a text box plus a submit button. So let's enter a test, right? Now the user called test does not exist. So what it's going to do is when I submit, it's going to go to slash home to slash test, and that's an unidentified person. So all good. Now, if we go back to this first page again, and we went Alice, we see that we get the Alice person exists. So therefore we have Alice who's 24 years old, right? That all makes sense, right? So yeah, this is essentially one step in the right direction. Now we can pass a name in without having to change the URL, because changing the URL is very weird. But what if the user wants to create a person, right? They still can't do this because, of course, we've restricted the creating of people to the actual backend and not to the front end. So we're going to create a new page. We're going to create a new page called create person, and we're going to create the HTML file first. Make person HTML, and we're going to just this has done all the code for me, which is quite nice. This CSRF token, just remember when you're doing post requests, you're going to need it. And I'll explain what post request in a little bit. Let's go back to the actual routing. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is creating a function that sends a post request. That is, that it doesn't pass its arguments in the actual URL, but passes it in a separate object. So we're going to need a separate route to handle it. And yeah, it's just very handily given us the idea of what to call it, make person. And then we go back to views.py. And we're going to create make person. So we're going to take this request. No. And then we're going to do data equals to first dot. Oh, let me just nominate that. Just have first. Request dot method equals to first. Yeah. Okay, so this is essentially what you're going to be doing here. We want to make a post request. That is, the actual name and the age are not sent via the URL. They're sent specifically by an additional JSON object, which is packaged with the actual request. So we're going to have the name, we're going to have the age, we're going to have, and then we're going to use that to create a person object. And then we're just going to save it and return the page that we were just on with a new private message. You know, that's fine. Yeah, let's just do it like that. I was going to use redirect instead, but that works. So let's go back to make person and let's add message. So we're going to just add a span here that just puts out the message. And this is also fine because we just pass the message as empty if the user hasn't created a person or whatever. But as soon as the user creates a person, it returns the same page, but now there's going to be a message that the user has created a person successfully. Yeah. So now, all we got to do is add the URL for it. So we got this, and this will mean that when we do /make person, it will go to. What we want is that normally we make a GET request. That is, we change the URL to do /make person. It's going to return us the standard HTML page. And then when we do the post request, so we send the data not via the URL, we also wanted to do some processing and then return our HTML page. So we go back to our views.py. And now, and that's enough to handle it. If you wanted to be more specific, you could do else if request.method equals to get and return the render make person.html without a message. You should still set the message as good hygiene. Yeah, the message should be an empty string. You should still send the message, but the message can be empty, and then the actual page will render without an actual message in the message box. And I believe that is enough to handle it. So if we go back to that page, we have enter your name, but okay, let's go to make person, right? Because that's what we're here for now. When we get to this make person page, we can see we have this option to create a new person here. and we can enter a name, we can enter an age, and then we create that person. So for name, let's enter Bob, and it will say Bob is 23. Very perfect. And now we can see, yes, we've got this HTML page back, and we can see that we have the text person created successfully. Right? And that makes sense. And now, if you were to go to the admin panel, as before, we go to the persons table. You can see we now have Bob, who's 23 years old, because he pushed Bob and 23 to that view, which has created the person and saved it to the database. Oh yes, very important thing that people sometimes forget. When you create this object here, that does not automatically save it to the database. So you might run into issues if you forget to do the next line, which is person.save. Or whatever your object's called, object.save. That .save method actually changes the database to include that row. Otherwise, you haven't actually added to the database. You've just created an object. Yeah, that's pretty much it on. Yeah, that's pretty much it on that front. We can make it more complicated. Let's say. Let's say we had like a directory of people, right? What might we want? Let's say if this was just you have a list of people applying for a job, right? What you might want is to say, oh, get me all the list of all people who are greater than or equal to 18 years old. Because they're the people who can take the job, you know? And to make the effect of this more obvious, I'm just going to go to the admin really quick. And I'm going to create a new user who's under 18. The new person, sorry, who's under 18. We're going to add. We're going to add, what's the name again? Just say Kathy. Sure. Who is 3 years old and therefore cannot get a job. Right? So now we want to have a page which gets all the people registered who are eligible for a job. And I'm going to say that's just everyone over 18 for now. Greater than or equal to 18. Now you get some funky filters. So what we're going to do first is create the view filter. I'm going to sit down because I've been standing for a while. So what we're going to do is create the view filters. And let me. Anyway, that I'm going to create a get legal people. I feel like this can be misinterpreted. It's fine. Yeah, it gets created differently. Get legal people, return personal objects of filter age greater than equal to. Let's make this a bit better. So we're going to say people equals to personal objects of filter, and we're going to return render request legal people.html with the list of people. Oh, I forgot to pass the request parameter. Okay, yeah. So now we have this view, and it's a very simple view, but you will notice that instead of referring to age, which is an actual column, we have age __ GTE, right? You can kind of guess what this means, right? GTE is just code for greater than or equal to. It's an example of a modifier you can add to filter objects of a particular model in Django. And in this case, __ GTE will just say greater than or equal to the value that you provide after the equal sign. So that should already give us the filter. We just need to create the legal people HTML file, and we need to create the route for it. So the new file, legal people HTML. I'm going to do HTML. Sure, let's just generate body. And we do not want to create a new person in this file. What we want to do is just turn. Okay, now here's the thing. We want to return. We want to just have a list of all the legal people, and legal people are passed to us via this list of people. Now, how do you? I'm going to avoid saying the word. Yeah, okay. If you have a list of people, how do you go through the list and then print out each person in turn? Like, just think very basically. If you wanted to print each person in a list, how would you do it? Yes, this is the for loop. So now we're going to get onto loops in the template syntax, which is also very cool. And the syntax for that is going to be, we're going to start off by saying for. Oh, it's going to do it for me. Sure. And we don't actually need this whole thing because you printed that string function. You can just print out the person directly. I'm pretty sure. I think. Yes, here's another thing that you can do. You will see that this is not your standard form. What do you think the else is for? It is pretty obvious. But what do you think the idea of the else is? Yes, if nobody is in the list, we will return, instead of printing out each person in turn, we're just going to print out the text, no legal people found. And I'll show you a case by deleting some people later. But for now, I believe that should be sufficient, except we have to register it in the urls.py. I forgot to do that. So now we're going to do path legal people, and it's going to run this function, and its name is going to be legal people. And we're all good. And let's go back and run the server again. Let's go back here. And we go back here. Oh, is this all admin tabs? Oh, wait, why wasn't the top? Sure. Okay, we go back to our home page and we're going to go to the legal people. Oh, did it? It also filled it wrong. Okay, that's my bad. They should have checked. Legal people.html because I created legal people.html without the underscore. Yay. Let's go to use.py. Oh yeah, nice feature. When you're in debug mode, it will show you the full error traceback. Right? Like you'll say, this is the type of error, template does not exist at /legal people. Makes it very easy to debug. Another reason I really like Django. I don't know why I feel the need to advertise it. It's quite nice, but yeah, essentially why I've chosen that. So now legal people instead of legal underscore people, and that route and that template should exist. Templates empty. It's not else. Did they change it? They changed it. It's no longer else. It's empty. Let's go back to.
Change the really?
They changed the syntax. It's been a few months since I've done this. Yeah, it's now empty, which makes a lot more sense as a keyword actually. So if the list is empty, it's going to give this text out rather than. Yeah. Okay, and now it's going to, because we've got this string function for each person, it prints out the string representation of each person to the screen. Alice is 24 years old, Bob who's 23 years old, right? And let me go quickly and then I'll refresh this page. Let me delete all the people who are legal age, right? I'm going to delete Bob and Alice. I can select them like this, and I can choose this action to delete selected persons, and I can click go. say yes, I'm sure. Right, and now Kathy is the only person, so there are no legal people. So now you click enter, you will say no legal people found. And that's all cool. What next? I do a bit more next. Okay, we're gonna put this up to a vote. First, do you want to see more front end? Do you want to see more back end logic? Front end logic being stuff like essentially JavaScript. Do you want to see me do some JavaScript manipulation and things like that, which could be useful for building websites? Or would you like to see me do more stuff based on the actual tables in the SQL?
I say backend.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, backend. Backend it is. We're looking at SQL. Yeah, incredible work. We just went from the first person. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the backend. Well, I need to message what it is. No, you're an illegal person. It's not legal. This is how it is. Okay. So we're gonna go and do some more. We're gonna look at some models. We're gonna look at some model options. Let's say that people can have pets, right? How you might look at this as a standard sort of relationship. Go back to the board. Can anyone see the board, by the way? Or am I just like writing with here, it's invisible? I'm gonna assume people can see for now. You cannot see a thing. Fair enough. I'm still gonna write on the board the whole thing. So you're gonna go each person here. Has this person can have multiple pets. Oh wow, this pen is dead. It's just gone. Okay. Yeah, each person, you're gonna say that each person can have multiple pets, but each pet can only have one owner, human. Just to make things simpler, right? I mean, obviously we know that pets can have multiple people, and that's what's called a many-to-many field. But we're not going to be bother worrying about it from now. Well, first going to be considered with is just a pet as belonging to one human, but a human can have multiple pets. So what we're going to do is going to create a class. Let me just terminate this. So, class pet models.model. It should generate the code for me again, which is, I don't know, honestly, that's kind of fair. All right, so we're going to say that each pet has a name. We're also going to say each pet has an age. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't think I've said this earlier. It kind of just makes sense though. What do you think max length means when you're talking about a character field? A character field just being a string. What does max length refer to? You guys can answer. I mean, I haven't really been talking to you.
Number of characters.
Number of characters, correct. Yes. Yes, exactly. Length can't be greater than 100. We're just saying that people with over 100 characters as names are not people.
Is it exclusive or inclusive?
You are very welcome. The recording will be made available later. Anyway, it is exclusive. No, it's inclusive, I believe. The absolute maximum length is 100 characters. After that, it will be test. I'm not going to type 100 characters. I'm just not going to. You can test it. Yeah, I'm sure you're following along. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to say that a pet has a name, an age, and an owner. if you have done SQL before, you will know what a foreign key is. But what do you think a foreign key is if you've not done SQL before? Given that it takes in the person model, and we ignore the on-delete for now. You actually tested it. Okay, sure. What do you think the foreign key is? You answer the question. You haven't said anything yet.
Because I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, that's my bad. I got that. But what? Okay. In this case, we've gotten that basically each of these represents a table and a database, right? So we have a table of people and we have a table of pets. And we've said that each pet can only have one owner, but an owner can have multiple pets, obviously, right? So what do you think this foreign key means? When we have owner equals to models.foreign key. Well, no, not really. What it means is that a pet will have a column called owner, which is a direct reference to the row in the people table. That's what a key is. The key is just a unique identifier for each row. So a foreign key is you're making a direct reference to a particular row in the people table. If you get that, right? And then we can actually pass another thing here. You can pass reverse name. No. Related name. Yeah, that's what it is. That was it? Yeah, related name equals pets. Okay. What do you think related name is? Given that related name is pets, I'm going to ask you guys again because you haven't said much. What do you think related name refers to? Yeah, if you go to a person and you do person.pets, it will give you a list of all the pets that person has.
Okay.
Which is very convenient because you don't have to go to the pets table and then go through each pet and see which one belongs to an owner. You can actually go the other way around. It's very neat, right? And this is the way you can get a foreign key which allows for a one-to-many relationship. So one row relates to many rows in the norm table. Right? Okay. The last thing to explain is what the on-delete equals models.cascade means. I'm just going to tell you what this means because it's not immediately obvious. But essentially what it means is when the foreign key is on the pet table, and we're saying that it's related to the person table and on delete with cascading, when we delete a person, all associated pets to that person are deleted. This is the equivalent of assuming that when an owner dies, their pets die with them. which is a fair enough assumption if you're talking about accounts, right?
In some cases, it probably works.
Yeah, like let's say you're like let's say this is a vet's website now, right? If a person leaves the vet's clinic, if they delete their account, their pets do not stay on the account. They leave the account.
Yeah.
So in this case, you would delete pets with parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wouldn't. There's other cases you can either if you allow this field to be null, the owner field, you could make the pet by itself exist without an owner. And stuff like that. I'm not allowing that. Pets must have an owner. When the owner dies, they die. Yeah. And yeah, that's basically all you need for the actual pets model in this case. This is just to demonstrate what a foreign key is. I'll keep more examples in a bit. So we're going to do Python models manage.py, make migrations. And we can see it's going to give us essentially the differences. And this time we created the model pet with these fields because what we already did in the previous migration is create the person model. So we don't need to specify that in our migration. We don't need to recreate it. This is also good. It's not going to delete any people currently in the person table because we've not made any changes to it at all. So you can just go ahead and migrate it. So Python manage.py migrate. Right, and now that pet model now exists. And what we're going to do is go into our admin.py and register the pet so that we can see it in the admin interface. Oh yeah, you weren't here before, right? This is the admin page. So the where is this? You see this page, right? Where you can see, oh, here's all the tables, person, and then we're going to add pets to that table. So you can see it on the
Where
web.
do I access this?
It's the /admin route on your website.
Where-
I'll move through the beginning part of this for you afterwards.
That's
You did miss that.
inbuilt Django.
I think do you have a working example?
No.
You've not before. Okay, you know what? It's fine. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll go over it after with you guys. Yeah. But essentially, you're going to be registering the pet to the thing, and we have to import the pet model first from the models. So now that we've registered the pet on our admin route, we can see that the pet exists. Right? So we save that again. We run the server again. Honestly, I think you guys get the idea of doing the front end changes and stuff. So I'm going to be showing most of the rest of this backend stuff on the actual, just using the admin interface, using the tables directly. So we're going to go to /admin. You can see we now have persons and pets. So now we can add a pet. And you can see this owner is now selection. And you can select the owner based on the owner string because that's how it gets listed, which is nice. You can say Kathy, because Kathy's the only person, right? So we're going to say the name is, it's unimportant. The age is 73. And we're going to save and add another pet. And you will notice that this pet can also be owned by Kathy who's 3 years old. But we don't actually have the option to add another owner to this pet. You only have one owner for a pet, but each owner can have multiple pets, as you can see here. So we can go name B, because it's unimportant again. And this can be 1 year old. And we're gonna say now we have 2 pets for this one person. You can see the string representation, and it's quite self-evident what that means. But if we go back to the persons table, what do you think will happen when we delete Kathy? I'm going to ask one of you two who's there, not Drew. Because you guys have been quiet as well. Are we going to get a message? It does not look like getting a message from the either two of you. All right, yeah. What do you guys think then? What do you guys think will happen if we delete Kathy, who's 3 years old?
Obviously, the pets die.
The pets die, yes, because we've got the cascade.
Yeah.
So the deletion, yeah, you can think of it like a waterfall cascades downwards, right? A deletion of the higher level will delete all elements of the lower level.
Yeah.
And pets are lower level because of the relationship between. So they delete the person, they click go. And you'll see that it will warn us that we're deleting 1 person and 2 pets, right? I'm going to cancel it because I'm going to have to recreate these pets. I don't want to. But yeah, that's essentially a guide to foreign key. I mean, you can make more complicated foreign key mechanisms, but honestly, it's just more of this. You just have more columns which have foreign keys and stuff. Now you might want to. Okay, let's create another class again. Let's create another class. And this time, instead of a foreign key, let's say, let's go. I think animals. Spirit animal. You know, the idea that each person has their one spirit animal. That's not a foreign key because a person can't have multiple spirit animals, right? They can only have one. So instead of a foreign key, we're going to use a one-to-one field, which is in the name, it's a one-to-one field. Each spirit animal can be associated with one person. So what we're going to do is going to create this class spirit animal. Extending models dot model. And we're going to go name equals to models. What is it saying? It's giving a power level. Sure, why not? Why not? And we're going to say owner equals to model. It's not going to be a foreign key. It's going to be a one-to-one field. Right? And honestly, the syntax is very similar. You have the model that's associated with, the person model that's associated with. We have the on-delete thing, which is models.cascade. And then we have the related name, which is a spirit animal. And the related name is like you can go to the person, and if you did person dot spirit animal, it will return the associated spirit animal. Right? Let's just update this. Plus. Right? And that just makes sense. And now we're going to create the migrations again, and then we're going to have to migrate again because we're changing the database. We're adding another table to our database called spirit animals. So you run the make migrations command, and then we run the migrate command in order to push those changes to the database. And then we're going to run the server again. Okay, we run the server again. We're going to go straight to /admin. And now we have persons and pets. Oh, I forgot to register in the admin, didn't I? This is what happens when you forget to register the the table of the admin. It won't show up, so you can't edit it from the admin interface. So that's why you need to do that. So back to admin.py. We're going to go spirit animal.
Yes.
I'm going to pretend this is all deliberate. I deliberately forgot to put it. Okay, and you can see it's automatically updated. So we're going to refresh the page again. Yay, spirit animals. And let's add a spirit animal to our 1 3-year-old. So now 3-year-old has 2 pets and a spirit animal. There's a lot of animals. I'm going to say power level 9000. And this is an appropriate spirit animal for the person. So we're going to save and add another. And now we're going to see that should not work. I don't think it will allow me. It should not allow me to do it. So let me just this and then power level train 2. If we save this, does this work? Yeah, okay. It doesn't allow it. I thought it would remove it from the list. But instead, it will just input validate and you will know because it's a one-to-one field, an owner cannot have multiple spirit animals. So if you try and register another spirit animal to the same owner, you will throw an error. And that's all good. That is to be expected because it's a one-to-one field. Yeah, and we're just going to go back. We're just going to completely ignore it. Yes. I guess sort of the last main thing to consider is what if you have, let's say, okay, we're going to say Kathy's particularly studious and she goes to school and has exams, right? Her test results. Wait, that doesn't make sense. A test result isn't a many-to-many field. Okay, what I'm thinking of is a many-to-many field. So multiple people can be associated with the same thing, and then each thing can be associated with multiple people. What's a good example? Hometown, their hometown, right? Wait. Places visited. There we go. Places visited.
Oh yeah.
Each person can go to multiple places visited, and each place visited will have multiple people.
Yeah.
And we're all good. I thought of that in advance. let's just create that quickly. It's going to be much of the same thing. Class, places visited. It's not going to be a foreign key. It's going to be many to many field. With the many to many field, the on delete no longer makes sense. Because when you delete a particular person, you're not deleting all of the other people associated with that place. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you think about it, like even if all the people left a particular place that's been visited in the past, that place doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
Right? That it's more of a thing that can be linked to multiple, but it doesn't need to be. So you just have that exist. That's all cool. That works. So it's very field we have we can ignore the visit date because that'll be a person related field rather than a thing related field. So go to yes. We have this. Place visited. And we're gonna go
Register.
I do have the register.
Yeah.
No, I didn't figure out this is a test. It's a test. It was a test trust. Admin that sent a register place visited. Alright, so we're in the admin view, the admin file, so we're going to be able to see it in the admin interface. So now if we go back and then run our migrations, that's going to create the places visited, and then we're going to run our migrate. So that's going to actually add it to the database. And now we're going to run server again. I'm just going to go back to our admin database. Yeah, place it with. It's going to add an S because that's how it does it. But you get the idea. So we're going to add a place visited. And then this is how this is okay. I'm going to add multiple people so this makes more sense. Let's go to persons first. And let's add a person. Because then that lives there. I completely forgot I could do that. You're going to add a person. I'm going to add Alice back. Alice has come back to life. She's now 27. And Bob is now 26. There's a time skip. So we have Alice and Bob, and they're both 26 and 27 years old now, along Kathy's 3 years old. And go to places visited and then add a new place that has been visited. And we're going to say that Kathy and we're going to say Kathy, and then we're going to shift click to select two. We're going to say these two. Oh, okay. I forgot about what the plus does. The plus allows you to add a person from this interface that has specifically visited this place, which is very nice. Very clean. I do not need that. Essentially, you can select the people who have visited a place from this list. Right? I'm going to say the place name is what's a very sad place to visit? Yeah, that makes sense. Ooh, maybe a person but none. Oh, okay. You can see if you go back to here and you go back to our models. Self person is a many to many field, not like it's a list. It's not a person. So I'm just going to remove that because I can't bother to make the string for that. We're going to get Copilot to make a string for that. Visited by you can kind of see what this does, right? We're taking this array of people, and for each person we're getting the string representation of a person, we're adding commas between them. Let's add semicolons because it makes more sense because long ass strings. Yeah. I'm just gonna have to I'll do the I don't think I have to do migration again, I'll just do
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna leave it. I don't think I need to do migration here. Anyway, places visited, and then we have that. And then we have, and now that should work. So if we make migrations and it shouldn't give us anything. Yeah, no changes to data. And that's because this string function is Python. This information isn't being stored in a database at all. Unlike the actual fields, the fields are stored as columns in the database. This double underscore string function is stored as Python code. So it is not stored in your database. It can be modified without modifying your database, crucially. So you can run that server again. Now that we've changed that. And if you just refresh this page, well, go back to places visited, you can see London has been visited by Kathy, who's 3 years old, Alice, who's 27 years old. Right? 2 people. Yeah, and then, okay, and let's just see what happens if we delete a person. If it's going to kill Alice again. Kathy just has to stay alive at this point. So now you'll see we're deleting the person and we're deleting the places visited to person relationship. So essentially, how this many-to-many field is actually stored in the SQL is in another hidden table. And that hidden table essentially draws links between one line in one table and then a line in another table. And that way, you can otherwise a many-to-many field doesn't actually make sense in traditional SQL. So you need another table to encapsulate the fact that you can have multiple links between multiple links.
But you wouldn't know which one.
Yeah. I can write stuff in the whiteboard, but that doesn't work. Yeah, so okay, let's delete it. Alice is now dead. The places visited has not changed. Now only Kathy has visited, so the string representation changes, and that's it. That's all good. I could do more SQL. Do I want to do more SQL? Do I want to go over so that you actually know what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, should I go over the beginning of this again? Or do I continue on for a bit and then go over the entire thing with you? Yeah, that works as well, I think. You have just only menu field, you have these fields. What other thing could you do? Okay, you can do default values. You can do default values and stuff like that. Let's say like each person has a birth certificate. We're making a government simulator at this point, which you love to see. Class birth certificate. Oh, I should really not run the server while this is running because I have autosave on. So it's going to give the person, it's going to be a foreign key because it's going to be a one-to-one field. It shouldn't be a foreign key. It should specifically be one-to-one field because one person can only have, and then that's the same thing, right, as before. And we have certificate number, whatever, that's an integer. And we have an issue date, which is a mobile.date field, and we're going to say default. Right? So what this default does, as you can kind of tell, it sets the default, like it sets a particular value when you initialize the object. In the case of most things, you can hard code a particular value. In this case, we don't really want to hard code a particular value, right? We want to hard code to whatever the actual date is when we're making this object.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what this does. Models.datefield.today, it executes that particular code when the actual object is created. So instead of going, oh, just give me a string that's a timestamp, give me a timestamp object with a particular pre-initialized time, it's going to say, it's going to check the actual date today, 04/12/2025, and save it as the date object. There is sometimes small issues with this. Small issues with this if you're deploying to a server in another country, which is very common with free hosting services. You're typically deployed to the US. Your dates might be offset. Do not worry about that. You're just recording US time. It does not matter for the sake of this. Yeah, so essentially that's going to just register today's date. I'm going to do that. So you can just, we're going to make the migration. No, I should register it first. I should remember it. No, I remembered all along. Yeah, never make a mistake. Birth certificate and add birth certificate. Sure. We're going to make the migrations again. Where's my mouse? We're going to make the migrations again. Oh, did I mess up? I forgot to call it as a function. I did. I believe it's a function. I believe that is correct. We just check. Yeah, being lazy is my downfall. Okay. So here's another thing you would check documentation. Django. Okay, so we're going to check documentation. We're just going to search actually because it's faster. Django date, time, default, down. Model. Oh, it's also add now. Also now add rather than setting the default parameter. Okay. So also now add equals to true. Okay, also now add essentially is a wrapper for an internal function that gets today's date. And then and because we're setting it to true, it's going to get today's date and automatically set it. Blank equals to true means that when we're creating this object, we don't have to actually pass in an issue date. We don't want to. We want it to automatically populate it, right?
Mm.
So we don't want to have to pass a date. And then yeah, it's going to be it on this front. And we registered it here. Yeah, let's go ahead and make that migration again. Then we're going to migrate. And then we're going to run server. Enter your name. No, we're not going to. No, exit back to the admin interface. Okay, persons, students, birth certificates. I'm going to add a birth certificate. I'm going to say this person is, we're going to add a birth certificate of Kathy because she's now going to be born today, I guess. That's an unlucky birth certificate number. Very randomly generated. We're going to save this. And you can see that the actual, the thing doesn't show. The date of this doesn't show. And the reason it doesn't show is it's hidden because you don't have to show it blank equals to true. So it automatically sets in the pattern without you have to specify in the front end.
How is that text documented? Born today. Like, what does that mean?
It's the certificate number.
It's not validated.
Oh, no, I made it a string because when you have certificate numbers, sometimes there's a mix of characters and symbols.
Oh, I see.
Right, so I just mean that.
Okay.
So, and it also allows you to create the glorious certificate number, born today 0.
I can make it a number if you want.
Yeah, but for birth, I could make it into an integer field, and then it wouldn't allow me to do characters. but this is funny. Richard explains it. Okay, another thing, if you go back to persons, go back to Bob, I believe it should show. It does not show. It should not. Okay, it does not show. Oh no, you have to enable something to show it. Can't bother to enable it. So, yeah. Take my word for it. If you were in your front end, you could do person dot birth certificate dot pets dot. You know what? Let's make a page for it. Let's make a page for it. Maybe we create a new view, which is get pets for person. Nice. Not ID, we're going to give name. Dot get. Oh yeah, dot get is an easier thing for dot filter. If you know that it's going to be an item which satisfies it, because if it doesn't, if like essentially there's no error handling on this function, so it's going to assume always valid input. So don't do this. Use dot filter instead, in cases where user is inputting stuff specifically. If you're in your backend function and, for example, you've got the user ID from, if you extracted a particular person's ID, and then you're passing that into another function to get pets, filter pets by ID equals to whatever, you can use .get because you're going to know there's going to be results, but the user can type anything. So do not rely on the user to type random input. You always use .filter.
Sorry.
Yeah. If people does exist. And then we're going to go pets and then we're going to remove the try except because big P would hate it. I'm going to remove that just for him. We're going to do if people.exists. Then we're going to also return that. Else. And we're going to return no pets. So, yeah, you get that? You get what this is doing, right? So here, okay, which goes.
So if there's no people, then there's no pets.
Exactly. So we're returning an empty list of pets.
Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense, right? Yeah, and then we're just going to create that HTML file, which should be basic. Pets.html. Will it generate more code for me? It will. Wrong code. Should not be generating legal pets. Pets a person. List of pets. Oh, nice. Nice. I like it when Copilot does stuff for me. Anyway, yes, you can see. Oh yeah, do you know what a URL is? Are you aware of the concept?
Yeah, unordered.
Unordered list, yes. URL is an unordered list, which means each list element, list item, I should say, is going to be prepended by a dot rather than a number or letter or some indexing. And then we're going to have our empty condition. So if this thing is empty, we're going to say no pets found. And then it'll good. And then we're going to actually have to add this route into our urls.py. Oh damn, it's one other person.
Oh, I am one person.
You are that one person. Oh, you've been there the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that is you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's a one-on-one, but you're listening on your device and and in person.
Yeah, because I wanted to make it
Double-
seem like I was on there.
No, you just double the experience gained.
Yeah. And also make it seem like somebody's there,
Of course.
even though actually no one's
Damn.
there. But hopefully, yeah, when I get home, I can rewatch this and actually try and make this
Something cool.
Yeah. Look at my notes.
I'm gonna make you do something now, actually. Forced.
Yeah, but I don't have the what do you call
Yes.
it? It's not on here, the Visual Studio. I think that's the problem.
Does it not work?
It doesn't even have PIP.
Doesn't even have pit.
So
Christ. Do you? Oh no.
if you have the library computer,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
that's like,
We can get it from there.
yeah. But you can get it from Microsoft Store.
Oh, I did.
And now you do. Python 3.13, the latest version.
Next year it will be Pi. 3.1.
That would be a great joke to make. As you have too many decimals.
Yeah.
Okay, so once that downloads,
Yeah, then I can do it.
then you can make everything. Okay. But you're probably gonna want to restart Fusco.
Yeah.
So that it registers that Python
I
thing.
found that wait, should we end this?
We can end this. I'm gonna show this one thing. And it will hurt it.
It's still recording.
Yeah, it's still recording. Okay, so we have this new route, right? Pet/drone name is scan. Is the same thing that we had for home2, right? But instead, this time we're going to be using the sort of the related name to .pets for the pets table in order to get the list of pets for a person, rather than having to go to the pet table and then iterating over each pet and checking the owner matches, which is a longer process. So we're going to go python manage.py run server. Go and go /pet/Kathy. So, /pets/Kathy. So I know Kathy has 2 pets. Yes, Kathy has 2 pets. Ta-da! List of pets. And now if we did a name that doesn't exist, or like Alice or something. No pets found. And we're all good. We're smooth sailing from it. I think that's enough as an introduction. It has we've got some nice basics covered. So what we've covered is sort of differentiating front end, back end, and then the middleware. We've covered the how to use Django to make a basic sort of to manage a database and then make a bunch of routes that use that database. What we haven't covered yet, we'll cover in the next workshop, is JavaScript and the use of JavaScript to create things like single page applications and more complex forms. And we haven't covered CSS for animations and styling. And we haven't covered UX, which is an important part. Yeah, that's it. It's going to be it. Did I do this? Did I stop this? Oh, let's see what the chat says.
I missed well, I didn't really even fill out messages. It's more I just checked the alerts rather than. It's all right, we're all good. So yeah, that's gonna be it. And I just remember to end the meeting instead of leaving.